All right, today we're going to talk a little bit about Cogulator's interface. If you don't have the software already, you can download it from cogulator.io, Windows or Mac version. If you get the Windows version, Windows Defender might give you a little bit of trouble. Right-click on the file you download, select Properties, and then the General tab. And in the bottom right corner of the General tab, you should see an option for Unblock. Select that, you should be good to go. So we're going to talk about the Cogulator interface and the main components, and those include the menu bar, the model sidebar, the model status up at the top, the code window, the Gantt chart at the bottom, and the magic models flyout that comes out from the right side of the interface. So let's zoom into the interface itself and take a good look at each of these. All right, let's start by taking a look at the menu bar up at the top. We'll start with File. If you're on Windows, things will obviously look a little bit different, but you'll get the general idea. File, Save. Notice there's no Open Model or New Model. We'll talk about why that is in a minute. We do have Export Model and Export Working Memory. That's so you can do some analysis outside of Cogulator. And then Open Cogulator folder. Every computer that has Cogulator installed has a Cogulator folder. On Windows, it'll be under My Documents Cogulator, and the Mac, it's Documents Cogulator. You'll have these four directories. Of interest today is the Models folder. These are all the models that are available in Cogulator right now. Notice they match what you see in the sidebar here on the left. If you want to open a model in Cogulator, it's got to be in this Models folder, and we'll talk about how you get models into this folder here in a minute. Nothing particularly interesting in the Edit menu and View. You can change from dark mode to light and back again, as well as toggle line numbers, which may be useful for larger models. In the Help menu, we've got Quick Start and Learn More. Quick Start just gives you an overview for the different components of Cogulator, so nice to have on hand for a quick reference. And then in Help, we also have Learn More, which just takes you to the Cogulator.io site. Primer will be really useful as a reference, so you can scroll through that and get whatever you need from it. And like I said, you can get to that through Cogulator.io, or if you can't remember, just go into Help and Learn More. So that's the menu bar in the nutshell. Let's look at the Models sidebar. In the Models sidebar, we can do three things. One, we can open a model. So we just click on it to open it. That's relatively straightforward. We can rename a model by double-clicking on it and then typing whatever we want for the name. And then finally, we can mark a model for deletion. If I click the X, it's marked for deletion. If I close Cogulator, it'll move that to your trash. You can go back and grab it if that was a mistake, or I can hit undo now and it won't be deleted when I close Cogulator. And that's all you really need to know about the model sidebar. For grins, I've switched over to light mode. We're going to look at the status bar up here at the top next. Let's start with this plus button. This is for new. So a new model in this case. If I want to make a new model, I'm just going to say new model. And then I can select a folder. I can type in any name I want or type in one of the existing folders if I want to put it in there. And I'm just going to hit create. If I don't select a folder, it gets created up here in this top section. So there's my new model, and I can now start working in it. It's constantly saved as I update. So you can click File Save if you like, and it's not a bad practice, but every time you switch a model or add a new line to a model or erase something from a model, it gets saved and updated in the Cogulator folder. Notice there's two other options here, operator and method. We're not going to cover these right now, but the principles are the same. If I want to create a new operator, and we'll talk about operators and methods in the GOMS video, but if I want to create a new operator or method, I can do that here, and then these will be available in the custom operators and methods section, which we'll look at here in just a minute. This is the current status of the model. Notice task time is 1.3 seconds and memory load is empty. Not a lot going on here. This is just a one-line model. Let's pick something a little bit more interesting. And now we see the task time is 21.5 seconds, a memory load of 5.9 chunks on average, that's working memory load, and then an estimated moderate workload across the model. These are the primary outputs of Cogulator. Again, task time, working memory load, and workload. And we'll talk more about those in the modeling video. If I want to update the model, I can do that by clicking the refresh button, although that's typically not necessary. If I go into Scratchpad, for example, notice Task time is currently 1.3 seconds. If I go to a new line and then hit look, which is a GOMS operator, notice my task time is now 1.8 seconds. So each time I update the model, your task time and memory load should update, but just in case, you can always hit that refresh button to make sure you're getting the latest. And that basically covers the status bar. All right, now let's look at a few tips for building models. We're going to look at autocomplete, insertion, and the tips and errors markers. So let's start with autocomplete. Real simple. You may already be familiar with the concept. I type TH, return, and now the think operator has been entered. If I want to do look, LO, or just L, and it gets entered. Okay, so that's all there is to autocompletion. Now let me add an empty line, and let's look at insertion. Anywhere I click on a blank line, I get this purple marker with a plus symbol in the middle of it. That's my insertion button. So I'm going to click that. And I have operators and methods. Let's look at the methods first. Let's say I'm trying to model somebody swiping through a list on an iPhone while searching for something. If I scroll down here, I see search and swipe. That looks pretty good. I'm going to press the info button. This is what the model is going to insert if I click on this. So that looks all right to me. I'm going to click search and swipe. And there it goes. So this is a pre-composed method for searching and swiping on a touchscreen, just to make it a little bit easier to build models. Now, any custom methods I build, remember we had this option of going to new and then method. If I build a custom method here, it'll show up in the custom section of methods, and then I'll have that to use whenever I'm using Cogulator. Same general principle applies to operators. We did the look and think operators earlier. Here's the click. I can press the info button. It tells me how long the operator lasts and what it is this operator is modeling. In this case, it's pressing a mouse button. So let me delete everything here. And then I'm going to go back to insert, and I'm going to hit click, and we'll see a few things. One, we get click inserted, but we also get this question mark here on the left side. So one of the features of Cogulator to help you when you're building models are tips. There are these yellow-orange markers on the left side of the modeling pane. Right now it's telling me typically there's a point before the click, and I have the option to fix it. So fix. Okay, so I point to something and then I click on it. That makes sense. But now I've got another tip, so let's look at that. Typically a look precedes this operator. I'm going to fix that one too. All right, so before I can point to something on the screen, I need to look at it, and now it's happy, so that's great. The other thing we'll get are errors, so I'm going to do that, and then we've got an error marker. It says I couldn't find an operator at the start of this line. So each line needs to start with an operator. Again, we'll talk more about that in the modeling video. I don't have an operator here, or at least one that's spelled correctly, so if I change that to click, the error goes away. Now there's actually a fourth way to get models built in Cogulator, and that's the Magic Models tool. So let's take a look at that now. All right, to demonstrate Magic Models, I've gone ahead and cleared out the model. And let's open Magic Models by pressing this button here. And we see a computer screen, and this will allow us to model interaction with the desktop computer or laptop. The other option is modeling interaction with something like an iPhone. So I can click at the bottom to select which one I want to actually model interacting with. Let's start with the desktop, and then we'll do a little bit with the iPhone as well. The idea behind Magic Models is that you demonstrate to Cogulator the task rather than entering the GOMS, and Cogulator builds the GOMS for you. So it takes a little bit of imagination, but I think you'll see how this works. So let's imagine something really simple. We're trying to model somebody saving a file the old-fashioned way by clicking File and then Save. So let's see how we do that. Well, File would typically be over here in the top left, so I'm just going to click on this screen here. Notice that it built a little bit of GOMS over here on the left side to model me clicking on File. And then I imagine that Save is down here roughly. I click there, and now I've got Save. So now I've modeled File Save in Cogulator without doing any typing or building GOMS models myself. Now that's how you do point and click. You can also do scroll if you want to do that. You can model scrolling. You can also model typing. So I'll do this is me typing, okay? And then when I press entered, it modeled that as well. And that's the desktop in a nutshell. Now, if I want to go through and clear out all these marks I made, I can just hit clear, and that'll clear out the desktop. I'm going to erase this once again. I'm going to switch over to iPhone. We can do the same sort of thing with an iPhone. I can model touching anywhere on the screen, swiping if I want to, and we get a marker where we swiped. We can model pressing the home button, and we can model speech rec. So if I press and hold this, it'll start flashing. It tells me to type the speech rec command and press enter when I'm done, so I'll do that. Let's do what's the weather? I'm going to press enter. It says type the system oral response. I'll type 82 and sunny, and then press enter again. And now I've modeled a speech rec command and the response. Now I did wait for system response here, 250 milliseconds. You can go in here and change this to whatever you want. Model a slow connection, we can do that. Reload, and we get an updated task time. That's how Magic Models works in a nutshell. It's really nice if you just don't have any familiarity with GOMS or building models. A nice way to start out and get familiar. All right, last section, let's look at the Gantt chart. So the Gantt chart visualizes your model results. So let's select a more interesting model here. Great, and then we'll bring up the Gantt chart. So starting on the left side, we see perceptual, cognitive, and motor. These are the different human resources modeled in Cogulator, and they're broken down here: see, think, say, hands, etc. If we look left to right, we see a bunch of operators here and their duration in milliseconds. So the first operator is here, and it lasts 1200 milliseconds. Then here, 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 here. And a say down here. If I want to find where this is in the model, I can click the button and it'll highlight it in the model. So if I click on recall there, that gets highlighted here, etc. Okay, so that's nice if you're trying to correlate what you're seeing in the Gantt chart with what's in the model. I can zoom out with the mouse wheel or by using these buttons. If I zoom out, I see the entire model. Looks like it takes about 21.5 seconds. That corresponds to what we see up here. You see some of the major goal statements: listen to problems, speak, answer, annotated on the primary timeline, and then some of the lower level subtasks also annotated on the other timeline, the milliseconds timeline. Okay, and I can scroll left to right, obviously. At the bottom of the chart, this is our working memory load as it progresses across the task. In this particular task, they're solving a mental math problem, so they're given 2 3-digit problems and asked to add those in their head. And so we can follow the life of a working memory chunk here by scrolling along in this chart. We can see the recall probability, the chunk name, the activation, how long it's been in memory, how many times it's been rehearsed, etc. And we can follow that all the way across until it leaves the model. The other little thing that you can see here are these little dots. There's 4 there and 5 there. These are the subjective workload estimates as the model proceeds. So it's 3 there and 5, rather 4 there, 5 here, 3, etc., as the model proceeds. The other little trick with the Gantt chart is you can take a screenshot. So I'll just hit screenshot. It'll ask me to save it. I'll save it. I already got one on my desktop, so I'm just going to replace it. I'll open it and then bring it over. Okay, so that's the model we're looking at right now. It's the full Gantt chart. It goes all the way over left to right, which is nice if you want to export this for a paper or something like that. And that's the Gantt chart in a nutshell. Now, there was lots of mention today of things like operators and methods and selection rules and goals. If you're not familiar with any of that stuff, that's absolutely okay. I'd recommend checking out the modeling and GOMS video, and that'll get you up to speed. In the meantime, if you run into any problems with Cogulator or have questions, feel free to get in touch, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Thanks.